O'Reilly. Check engine light on? Take the guesswork out of your check engine light with O'Reilly Veriscan. It's free and provides a report with solutions based on over 650 million vehicle scans verified by ASE certified master technicians. And if you need help, we can recommend a shop for you. Ask for O'Reilly Veriscan today. O'Reilly Auto Parts.
What's up, everybody? It's Friday night. We're here. I got a crew in the house. They skipped date night just to be here to hang out with you. What better way to spend a Friday? What's up, everybody?
Tyler, what's going on, man?
Glad to have y'all. You guys know we've got a ton for you. We got some off-season stuff. We have some contradictory takes on where people are going to go. I know Joe has a huge thing weighing on his heart. If you notice the thumbnail today, then you kind of get a glimpse of what that may be in the life of a Steelers fan.
It's tough in these streets.
Before we get going, I just want to give a chance. I've got some great guests with us for them to introduce themselves, who they are, where you can find them, and then we're going to get right into it. Start us off, Hutch.
Yeah, y'all. I'm Hutchinson Brown, and I'm a teenager trying to make his way in the fantasy ball space. You can follow me on Twitter. I'm at HutchinsonB_FF, and I have a job with Football Guys. I make a lot of content for them, both in the written game and also on video. I do a lot of short videos for them. I also have a podcast myself, Hutch Coming in Clutch. Check it out wherever you get your podcasts. I've been in the industry for a few years, been doing my thing, and keep rolling. Thank you guys so much for the opportunity to be on the show today.
For sure.
Glad to have you, man. All right, Joel.
Yeah, I'm Joel Worth, the Joel Worth on the Twitter and the Blue Sky. Appreciate you guys having me on. You can find me at Club Fantasy doing Dynasty stuff and on IDP Plus doing best ball and other fun stuff. And just occurred to me, this is like my first pod of the new season. So just getting ready to get fired up.
Love it. Mid-season form already. That's the expectations that we got to set, right? So y'all know me here every week. Joe Frick, Fantasy Football Advice Network. I am also the Russell Wilson for both Hutch and Joel. Were on my fantasy football, or I guess flag football teams for the Fantasy Football Expo last year. So Hutch was like our power slot. Joel was defensive menace, also like wingback tight end situation, and I just kind of ruined things for the team. So this is my chance to pay them back a little bit, give them some love, and tell them how sorry I am that they had to be my QB. Much like, regardless of what happens in Pittsburgh, I will be sorry that they will be my QB next year too.
You didn't have to bring up the sore subject of the flag football tournament because I don't know if I remember this right, but I think the Advice Network crew ended the tournament for one of the groups one of the people in here, but I won't. I'll leave that alone. I think I caught like a deep corner route that just happened to be just right. But yeah,
I think that was the only game y'all won, right?
Yeah, it was the only one.
Us, right?
Yeah, that was the first game. That was the very first game because I threw that pass to Colin on the second play, and then Tyler caught that long bomb like on the first play on defense, and then they ended up winning.
Yeah, for me, I played ball so long, and then now I'm old. I'm like 37 years old. I am like Russell Wilson, except on the other side of the ball, and it's like, I'm like, man, I'm older than that. I'm like Travis Kelce, no, older than that.
You're like that commercial with Jerry anxious. Rice. Like, can I get a Pepsi?
If Tom Brady decided he was going to go wide receiver, right? And I just happened to get open. I got a lucky play. I was pretending like I was in my prime. But, I am no George Pickens, so I'm going to parlay this conversation because it's not about me and roll over to Steelers. Like, obviously, huge signing today. One of the teams on the docket was the Giants for a potential Russell Wilson or Aaron Rodgers landing spot. I think Russ was supposed to meet with the Giants It was either today or yesterday. But it comes out today. They signed Jameis Winston to 2 years, $16 million deal. And that then there lies, and we'll talk about Jameis and the effects of that in just a minute. But therein lies the main thing is like in Pittsburgh, are we gonna get Russ? Are we gonna get Aaron Rodgers, or are we gonna get Jackson Dart? I don't know. What do you think, Joe? I know you're the Steelers fan.
So my sources say that the door is closed with Russ. Okay, so like Russ is not on the table. So I think that there is a chance that Rodgers can come out of a darkness retreat, sign with the Steelers. He was in Pittsburgh the other day, left without a deal. If you recall last year, Russ came to Pittsburgh, left without a deal, signed, I think, 48 hours later. So him leaving without a contract today doesn't mean anything. I think that there is some urgency from the Steelers, given that Michigan Pro Day, they're heavily looking at Kenneth Grant in the first round of the draft. They've been all over defensive line throughout. The Steelers historically always go to the Pro Day of who they're taking in the first round. Tomlin and Omar Khan, GM, were meeting with Aaron Rodgers. So I do think that there is some potential of this brewing. I do think that's what happens. I don't think that rules them out from taking a quarterback, but I would be shocked if it was Jackson Dart as being projected in the first round. But I do think it's going to be A-Rod with a rookie like in the 4th or the 5th, and then they'll probably try again next year because he's going to be miserable. And the thing that I'm most curious about it all is, so you have an immovable force versus an unmovable object. Aaron Rodgers gets all of his coaches fired. Mike Tomlin is impossible to fire.
Is there an ayahuasca dispensary in Pittsburgh?
Probably.
I was on the radio this week with a guy who's a huge Steelers fan, and he was like, Mike Tomlin is so mid. I just wish he would leave. And I was like, wow. I mean, he got you a Super Bowl, and he's like, no, he didn't. He's mid. He's just playoffs, and that's it. So, Hutch, do you buy it? Do you think Rodgers ends up a Steeler? And if so, does that mean Russ is done, or is there a team still for him?
I'm with Joe here when it comes to Aaron Rodgers probably going to the Steelers. I mean, the rumors all offseason have pointed towards the Steelers being a heavy favorite for Rodgers. There's been multiple meetings now. They seem to have gone pretty well per most reports. I wouldn't be surprised, like Joe said with Russ, where it was 48 hours after a meeting he got signed. I wouldn't be surprised when the next 2 to 3 days we see Rodgers signing in Pittsburgh. You have DK Metcalf there. You have George Pickens there, at least for now. They might trade Pickens. I wouldn't be shocked by that one either after paying Metcalf so much money. But this is a contending team that can win some games. I think Rodgers, at his expiring age, is going to want to go to a contender. I don't think wants to go to a place that's going to be a complete rebuild for him. He doesn't have time to do that. I think Pittsburgh with Rodgers makes a lot of sense. And then Russell Wilson, if they're going to sign Aaron Rodgers, they're likely to let go of Russell Wilson. And I think that he'll get signed somewhere. But at this point, we're at the point where there's only a couple teams left that are really needing a quarterback. And most of them are near the top of the draft where a quarterback is going to be very available for them to take. So I think Russell Wilson at this point is likely going to be a bridge to a rookie quarterback. That's kind of what we're looking at.
I would agree. Joel, you're shaking your head. Do you have the same sentiment?
Yeah, I mean, being a Packers fan, there was always the discussion when Rodgers was here, the kind of mutual admiration society between him and Mike Tomlin. So I think this is a fit that makes some sense. Pittsburgh's a playoff caliber team that needs a quarterback. Rodgers, like Hutch said, is not going to be long for a rebuild. So I think it does make sense. It's not something I would do, but
I agree.
Beggars can't be choosers.
So we got a couple people in the chat. Brent saying, let's go. Mr. Grapefruit, Neighbors to the moon. Neighbors will be great with Jameis. Love the show. So let me ask you. Well, we got one more before we get into the Giants, but it says, BHS Cardinal 16. Is it really the end for Pickens? I'm curious. Hutch, you're nodding. I have a ton of Pickens in my dynasty leagues. I think he's a big player. I think it's like one of those players you just really want to see behind a quarterback. I mean, he did it last year in double coverage, in triple coverage. You're going, how did he catch that ball? How did he track? He has superior tracking skills, and it's just like, Arthur Smith offense, no telling on the quarterback. Like, are we out, or is there hope for him to still be a thing?
Well, obviously, I mean, I mentioned it when I was talking about Aaron Rodgers. I think there's a potential that we could see a George Pickens trade. George Pickens is a very hot-headed wide receiver. We all know that. DK Metcalf is also a hot-headed wide receiver. They're both very confident in themselves. I feel like Pickens, seeing Metcalf get a massive contract, he might want out of Pittsburgh. It's given that he might not be the wide receiver one anymore, not in terms of only salary, but in terms of actual target share as well. We might see a trade here. I mean, we've seen the Steelers do this a multitude of times, especially in recent years with Deontay Johnson, Chase Claypool, taking wide receivers that seem to have some emotional issues, seem to have some things going around off the field as well as on the field emotionally. They trade them away and they get all the value out of them that they could have gotten. Like Deontay Johnson was very productive the first years. They traded him to Carolina and then he does very little. Remember Chase Claypool was traded to the Bears for a second-round pick? Remember that one, everybody? That went terribly for Chicago.
So awesome.
Pickens could turn into a similar player. I hate to say it, but Pickens could be on that track as well.
You're breaking my heart.
I know.
You're breaking my heart. I mean, here's where I'm at. And Joel, you can give me your thoughts on this. Pickens did last year, and we, you see it. He did it with nobody really on the other side. Like, Russ is throwing to Van Jefferson, he's throwing to Calvin Austin the third. Like, he is taking on the double coverage and he's still doing the big plays. A lot of that early D-Hop type style stuff, right? And then, so I wonder, and this is just me, and I think really Arthur Smith is the ultimate, antagonist to this dream, this story that I'm building up in my head. But in my world, if DK does become or is looked at by defenses as wide receiver one, does that, like, Pickens against the cornerback number 2 on teams, is that not like an absolute mismatch?
Well, I think Metcalf and Pickens are just very similar players, so I think there's a bit of redundancy there.
Yeah.
So that's going to take some kind of scheming from Arthur Smith to work out. My concern is if they do bring in Rodgers, like when he went to the Jets, they brought in Al Lazard, he brought in Randall Cobb. He wants all his, they eventually brought in Devontae Adams. He wants these guys who have been around him, who know his, his little hand signals and head motions and stuff like that he wants to call at the line. Now, he's probably been doing these things since George Pickens was in the 8th grade, and Pickens isn't going to understand these. So, yeah, it's going to blow up. There's just no way that can work. So, yeah, I think it ultimately there would probably have to be a trade with Pickens. I can't see that working with Rodgers very well.
I think there's a couple ways that it could go because Pittsburgh has been looking for that second receiver for a while. They were heavily invested in Ayuk last year and were kind of just waiting to see what happened. And then Ayuk re-signs with the 49ers. They actually talked about picking up Ayuk again when they unloaded Deebo Samuel this offseason, but nothing really materialized there. What will be interesting to see is, like, what is the market for a George Pickens who has the freak athletic ability, but he is known to take plays off. He has done some just like bizarre things, like end of the game Hail Mary. You could try to catch the pass, or you could run out of bounds and like start a fight. Like, there's a lot of like weirdness there from a fantasy perspective. Points per game last year, yes, he was the top guy. Yes, he popped and had some big games, but on a points per game basis, he was wide receiver 40. I think what we'll see is that the Steelers didn't feel confident in paying him that $30 million a year that they gave to DK Metcalf. That's very clear. Would they trade him before the season starts? I think they could, but I don't know if they would recoup enough and get something back immediately this year that would make it worth it when they're probably going to have a bridge like Rodgers there. They're going to push in the chips. Art Rooney, too, does not really believe in like a tank, which trading Pickens sort of is doing that in a sense. The other thing that you keep in mind, and if you look at the way the Steelers have attacked free agency this year, they've really been going after comp picks and have been trying to load up for 2026. So I do see a scenario where they keep Pickens, let the contract expire, and that's pretty much locked in because he'll get a big contract somewhere that you're going to get that third round comp pick. So it's like, if I can't get better than a third immediately in a trade, why not use them for the year with Rodgers and see what happens? And then you're going to get the comp pick kind of compensation out of that. So, yeah, I don't think he's here beyond this season. Will he be there for the season? I kind of go back and forth depending on how I feel.
Fair enough. Well, apparently I've postponed it enough. We had Mr. Grapefruit, Neighbors to the Moon. Neighbors will be great with Jameis. And then we got Brent Bradford coming in here. Get to the Neighbors talk. What about this 2,000-yard season coming up? Joel, is it possible? Like, can if Jerry Jeudy can really in the back half of the season go for 1,300 yards, what does that mean for Neighbors for 2025?
I mean, I thought that was always going to be in play if they could get a quarterback at all. I mean, the dude is just a massive target monster as a rookie. So, I mean, he's an absolute stud. So that was always going to be in play. Can Jameis not throw enough interceptions to actually keep the ball on the Giants' side of the field and keep marching and actually score touchdowns and make it a functional offense? That's really the question. He had a couple huge games with Cleveland last year, but the rest of the games were pretty bad, honestly. And he was pretty bad in New Orleans. So I don't think this really moves the needle. I saw the line or the tweets on Twitter tonight about, everybody saying that, how massive it was going to be for Neighbors. I don't think this moves the needle too much on Neighbors just because I think he was going to be really good in the first place. And I'm not sure that how functional Jameis is as a real life quarterback. I mean, can he sustain an offense? That's the biggest question.
Yeah, especially that offense. And Brent Bradford said Winston might break Eli's interception record, which would be a good feat. What about Hutch? I'm curious because, I've seen some trades happen on this Neighbors narrative, right? Like, so Jameis goes there. The thought process that, especially in Dynasty, I mean, Neighbors is an absolute stud, but that Jameis is going to be there. I have seen some people get some absolute hauls.
Yeah, some hauls.
Like, I mean, I saw one where a guy got a first, Brian Thomas Jr. and Lad McConkey.
Oh,
Neighbors.
Okay.
Damn.
If anybody in my league wants to send me that, my phone is on.
I've got a ton of Neighbors, and I would sell every one of them for that package.
Yeah, no, that's.
Let me put him on the block real quick while we're talking about this.
I literally tweeted that like 5 minutes after the news broke, or 5 minutes after I saw it. I was like, put Malik Neighbors on the trade block, not to likely actually sell him, but just to see what kind of madness you'll get. Because I completely agree. If you get an offer like that, like where it's just, okay, this is ridiculous, you just smash accept. Like the value is just there. And the thing is, Joel, you were talking about, is Jameis good enough to maintain an offense? And I don't think the Giants think he actually is, because when you really look at that contract, it's 2 years, $16 million. It's only $8 million guaranteed. So and even if you look at $8 million a year, that's the same money as like Taylor Heineke, Marcus Mariota, and Jacoby Brissett right now. Like this is backup money. And if he were to be paid like a 2-year, $30+ million deal, I'd be like, okay, he's the starting quarterback. But he is really not. I think the Giants are still going to be aggressive and draft a quarterback in the NFL draft. They have a top 3 pick. They have plenty of capital to trade up. I think they're going to use Jameis as a bridge to a rookie quarterback. And that's the only concern I'm going to bring up right now, because if Jameis Winston goes through his first 8 games, Neighbors is on pace for 3,000 receiving yards, but Jameis Winston has like 15 interceptions in his first 10 games, there's going to be chance for the rookie. People are going to be like, where's Cam Ward? Where's Shadou Sanders? We got to get this guy out. Jameis is not running a functional offense. Yes, he can throw it to Malik Neighbors 10 times a game, but he can't get us a functional offense, and this team is losing. There's going to be calls for a rookie quarterback. So I'm just saying, like, obviously that's not the situation we're in right now because we don't know how the draft's played out. But I'm still on a strong watch for the Giants to be drafting a quarterback. And if they do, we might have to temper expectation from Malik Neighbors, because I would expect at some point the Giants are going to make a switch and put that rookie in over Jameis, who's going to make a lot of turnovers.
It almost feels like he is an insurance plan if Sanders and Ward are both taken by the time that they're on the board. So it's like, all right, like, are they going to take Dart that early? I don't see it happening. They're probably going to fill other holes because they have a ton that they need to fill. Maybe they trade up at the end of the first for Dart if he's still available. It'll be interesting to see. I feel like he's getting propped up a bit. And is he actually a first-round pick? I don't know. I know, like, Derek Brown is like, that's my QB2. Let's ride with this. Let's do this. You have some people that are saying, like, hey, like, this is like a 3rd, 4th-round guy. So he's kind of being like the sexy late first-round guy. that could be like, is it Malik Willis hype where it's like, oh yeah, definitely first round pick, top 10 guy, and then third round when he actually gets drafted? Like, where does the dart hype actually fall? But yeah, I don't see the Giants trading up for a quarterback. If there's one there, I bet you they would take him. But other than that, it's like at least they're going to have something that's serviceable. If Dable can make Daniel Jones work a little bit, he probably can get a little bit out of Jameis. But we'll see what happens. I would expect them to be more aggressive with that regime, just seeing how bad the Giants have been. It seems like they're on the hot seat a little bit, but it's a bad draft to need a quarterback and be on the hot seat.
Yeah, the thing is, like, they can't, if they go out with just Jameis and they lose a ton of games and that's it, there's no way they keep their jobs. Like, there's just no way they keep their jobs at that point. If they draft a rookie and still lose a lot of games, they're going to get at least another clock reset because it's like, okay, you have a rookie here. Let's see what you can do with him. I think that drafting a rookie gives the GM, gives the coaches a chance to have their job for longer. And I think they're going to push aggressively for that quarterback due to that.
Yeah, I mean, obviously there's been word that Titans might try to trade down. We know that it sounds like they really want Abdul Carter. That's who they would like to get, which would open it up for, several moves that get somebody up there into the quarterback talk early. So definitely interested to see how that continues to pan out. And, thinking about that, Tennessee could be a landing spot for, maybe a Russ or something like that as a potential spot. I do think that Levis is really raw and needs a lot of work. But, we'll see how that goes. So continue with free agency signings. We had a couple of, offensive line signings towards the beginning of the week. We had Mekhi Becton going to the Chargers, Ronnie Stanley with Baltimore. My question here is obviously we also had Najee signed with the Chargers. Is Becton a game changer for that offense? What are your thoughts, Joel?
I don't think he's a game changer because their line was already pretty good. I mean, he probably makes them better, but I don't think he's taking a weakness and turning it into strength. I mean, obviously, offensive line is important. It's especially important in a Harbaugh, Greg Roman offense where they're going to want to run the ball, play off their tight ends quite a bit. So, yeah, I think it helps them. It makes them better. The strength of their offensive line is their tackles, obviously, but I think he takes them from an 80 to an 85 offensive line, but I don't think it's a game changer, but it certainly helps. I mean, he's a very good player, and he gives them kind of a swing tackle. He came up as a tackle, couldn't stay healthy, and then moved to guard at Philly. But if an Alt or a Slater gets hurt, he could probably pop in and play tackle something. So it gives them some flexibility. Yeah, I think it's a nice signing, but they had a ton of cap space, so they had to spend it on somebody.
Yeah, I mean, I don't hate it. I mean, the best teams, like the Lions. I mean, that offensive line is absolutely stellar, and we see what they're able to do no matter who's running the ball, much less give Jared Goff time to, be considered in the top 10 quarterback room, which is, crazy when you think about, previous performance. But that offensive line makes a lot of difference. And Herbert, though the offensive line has been okay, like I don't think Herbert's really, he's banged up every year, right? And part of that's on him. He's got to get the ball out, but does that security, do we get a level up for that offense?
I think for sure the offense, Mekhi Becton, the thing about him, I just specifically love him for the run game because he's just such a mountain of a human being. Jim Harbaugh is going to love this. He is a hard-nosed, physical, running the ball kind of offensive scheme guy. Like this is what he wants to do. He wants to play physical, he wants to play tough, and he wants to play stronger than you. And Mekhi Becton is someone that's going to help do that at his monster size. I mean, there was a video, I think it was the Chargers social media team. They were like measuring him with like a ruler. Like, did you guys see that video?
Yeah.
It was like they were trying to get measuring tape on him, and like they said he's 6'7". Mekhi Becton was like, no, it's just the doctor. I'm 6'8". You got it wrong. It was pretty funny. He's like 6'8", 365. Like Jim Harbaugh is just going to love this guy. I think this is a great upgrade specifically for the running game because he just moves people. He just creates space and moves people out of the way. You saw plenty of that in Philadelphia for Saquon Barkley. Specifically, there was a play against the Rams where he just threw people, man. I mean, he's throwing people out of the way, making easy holes for the running back position.
Yeah, he's like your off tackle or your inside, like your smash like specialist, right? Like,
yes.
Let him just clear him out in the middle, and that's Najee. Like, Najee's not a lot of side to side. He needs to get moving, and same thing. It kind of translates to Baltimore too. Ronnie Stanley. I mean, obviously that offense it performed highly. Derrick Henry exceeded expectations. Well, I think he was on par for what I thought would happen, because any running back in the Ravens offense has been successful, whether it be Gus Edwards, J.K. Dobbins on a bum knee, or, King Henry, which obviously is a whole nother level. There's just something about when you play the Ravens and you have to play Lamar, intentionally, right? It limits how you can condense space on a running back. So if you have a Henry who's going to destroy arm tackles, it definitely changes the game. So I think that was a good pickup by them. Really the heartbreaker, Joe, and I'm going to drop this one over to you. The heartbreaker is all the Dallas fans that just keep waiting year after year. They're like, this is the year we're going to get our running back, since Zeke and he kind of slowed down. They've been waiting in anticipation. And, maybe they were going to get King Henry last year, and Jerry Jones didn't want to spend the money, and so this year they're thinking, okay, this is the year. Dallas is going to take Ashton Genty. Like, we're going to get the running back of our dreams. And then what do? They go and sign two guys that at very mid money. They get Javonte Williams, who I don't hate, by the way. I think if Rico Dowdle can be successful, I think Javonte can be successful in that offense. But then they go and they back it up by bringing in another veteran in Miles Sanders. If I'm a Cowboys fan, Joe, are my dreams like just crushed?
I mean, your dreams have been crushed for years, my friend. To start there, like, if you look at the last time that they were even in the NFC Championship game, Hutch, I don't even think you were alive yet. Like, it's been a while.
Was it 30 years ago? 20 years
something. I think it's 20 something or other.
Yeah,
it was about a decade. Andy was probably Hutch's age back then.
Yeah.
No, not that old. I mean, not that old.
That soul has been crushed like for a long time. I do think there was a lot of like bubbling optimism that this was going to happen. But I will say, if you look at the contracts, they're short-term deals, not for a lot of cash. I think Javonte is going to have pole position coming into the season. There's going to be a rookie that gets drafted. I don't think it's going to be like a first-round guy, but this is a deep draft. They're going to take somebody in those middle rounds. They need to start flushing out. One, they don't really have any receiving options besides CeeDee Lamb. So, like, what are they doing about that? One. Two. Sure.
You got Jonathan Mingo.
Sure. That solves it all.
Out of the park.
But you have Zach Martin retired. Their offensive line which was the strength of the team in the early Dak Zeke era, is kind of disappeared. So they need to start building that up. But with the depth that you have in the running back class, I could definitely see like a third, fourth round pick being spent. Miles Sanders, third down running back, Javonte at the pole position gets usurped at some point potentially, or they have the rookie waiting in the wings. Honestly, I'm surprised that they didn't call about Jerry's boy, Jonathan Brooks. Once Rico Dowdle went to the Panthers, it's like, hey, like, we'll just sit on him for a year, and then Jerry finally gets his boy. But yeah, you're not going to have hope for a Giants fan until Jerry's no longer running the team. So good luck.
Chef came in, he said, Flex Seal meme, Tet McMillan to the Cowboys.
Oh, man.
Do you buy it, Hutch? Would the Cowboys ever take a weapon?
It's really difficult. It's really difficult for me to sit here and say I'm going to predict what the Dallas Cowboys are going to do, because, to be quite frank, they've been unpredictable over the last couple of years. Jerry Jones, as he's continued to age, has been more and more unpredictable, and, to be honest, more and more incompetent. Like, we've seen some bad decisions. We've seen some poor moves. I mean, last year we were talking, Cowboys, even in this week drum head class, they're a lock ticket running back. There's no way. In free agency, with all these loaded names, Saquon Barkley, Joe Mixon, Derrick Henry, and plenty of others, there was so much opportunity. They did not select a running back. They did not get somebody. And now we're looking at them heading into this year. They've added Javonte Williams, Miles Sanders. This is a very strong running back class. And we know Jerry, Jerry, the thing is, he likes to sell some tickets. He's a businessman. You add an Ashton Genty, you add an Amarian Hampton, a big-time piece on offense. It's going to sell some tickets to have that Genty name on a Dallas uniform. And Genty even said he wants to go to Dallas. There was a live stream he was on where he was like, Dallas would be a fun team to go to. I'm not sure how you're feeling about that now, given the state of their team. But, he said earlier in the offseason he'd love to go to Dallas. But the thing is also, we just saw this same exact situation last year where we were hoping they'd take a running back and they didn't. So honestly, it's just a wait and see situation. Personally, if I had to guess right now, I would guess that it's going to be Javonte next year. I think that's going to be their guy. They have way too many needs on other places. You guys are mentioning their offensive line is completely depleted. They have injuries on defense. They have veterans on defense they need to fill in. They have a whole Micah Parsons situation they got to figure out is a dumpster fire right now in Dallas.
Chev said again, Jerry fighting CTE and dementia like Iron Man fighting Bucky and Captain America in Civil War. Appreciate that. Yeah. Jerry Jones and it breaks my heart. You guys know, you guys don't know, but Joe, I'm a diehard Razorbacks fan. Like, I was so happy when they knocked Kansas out of the tournament. Like that's my team. Jerry Jones and Jimmy Johnson played together on the national championship Arkansas Razorback team. So I've got a little buy-in and I'm like, but when it's your time and you've been, it's time for you to move on, and I think that's where everybody's at with Jerry Jones. Like I think they're ready for the next, regime, the next Dallas Cowboys. And it seems like they're in a spot. They're in a spot to revamp, to move around and, keep that rolling. So I'm going to move on to, we're going to hop over to the Fantasy Sports Advice Network. As the guys know, this show is sponsored by that. It's sponsored by the Fantasy Sports Advice Network, fantasysportsadvice.com, the social media platform for fantasy sports. We're going to hop over there and see. We've got a doozy of a question for the viewers. So check out this and we'll hit that question.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to FantasySportsAdvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to FantasySportsAdvice.com today.
All right, so right here in the Football General, we have Geezer, and he's dropping in a question. He says, okay, so given that I never draft a top 5 quarterback in the first 3 rounds, does anyone here believe that J.J. McCarthy will be the later round quarterback steal of the year? I'm back and forth. So just hit it, go. Hutch, start us off, Joe, then Joel. Is J.J. McCarthy the late round? Obviously you're going to get him deep in one quarterback redraft leagues. Dynasty's different, but in redraft this year, is he the one you want?
I would look at him as a QB2 for sure. J.J. McCarthy has, I've said this on my podcast, Hutch Coming in Clutch. I mentioned that this team right now, when you look at the roster top to bottom, if J.J. McCarthy plays above average football, this Vikings team could be a legit Super Bowl contender. They have a loaded roster. They've done some great moves in free agency. They have the draft coming up. They have a loaded offense, a loaded defense. And J.J. McCarthy, with the weapons he has, could absolutely be a productive quarterback. The problem with calling him a potential QB1 for me is that this is his first year starting, and he doesn't have the rushing upside. He really doesn't have that rushing capability. He's not a Jane Daniels and Caleb Williams and Bo Nix, where you could see him run for 400, 500-plus yards. Maybe he could. I don't know. He flashed some athleticism in Michigan, but not an elite amount to the point where I could project him as a rushing quarterback. So he's likely going to be primarily a pocket passer. And as a result, given that it's only his first year, I wouldn't expect, a 30 touchdown season, which is what it would take to get him that top 5, top 10 conversation. I just don't see that happening for him in his first year playing football. So it's possible, but I would more likely put him as a QB2. He's likely going too low, though, given his current offensive situation. He's probably going in that QB 24 to 30 range. I would put him more in that QB 15 to 18 conversation.
Yeah, so right now on Underdog Best Ball Drafts, he's sitting at quarterback 22, so 20 to 25 is Penix, Tua, JJ, Bryce Young, Matt Stafford, Anthony Richardson, Cam Ward is 26th. Going into last year, I was very anti JJ. I think like his like attitude and youth just annoys me. Like the whole like I'm gonna go barefoot on the field so I can get grounded. It's like, what are you doing? You play football. Like, why are we doing this stuff? Like, it just rubs me the wrong way. And maybe I'm just becoming an old curmudgeon. I don't really know.
That's not very curmudgeon. I'm not gonna lie.
It does. It does. I know. I'm aware. I'm a dad now. It just
aged a bunch of years from my book, man.
It happens. But if we look at the quarterbacks from that draft, every single one has been money. Every single one. So it's like now over time, we look at Sam Darnold, who I didn't think was really going to do anything in Minnesota. We look at Josh Dobbs, had his little moment of fun in the sun in Minnesota. It's like, all right, like you look at what KOC is able to do with anybody off the street.
Nick Mullins even look good.
Yeah, right. So why not this guy that he felt passionate enough to trade up for? Why can't he also be that guy? And I think that Kevin O'Connell is going to put him in a good position to be successful. He has great offensive weapons with Addison and Justin Jefferson. Oh, yeah, you also have TJ Hawkinson. Aaron Jones is okay at running back, I guess. So it's like from a team construction perspective, definitely worth the late round flyer. Like Hutch said, I do think it's going to be interesting to see how much rushing upside that he has. But I think a lot of those guys, the Caleb Williams, if you look at Drake May, both of those guys in college, both had over 90 rushing attempts their senior year. Players that have at least 90 rushing attempts in their last year before they go pro tend to have a QB1 season. They're not that far ahead of them, but I'm probably going to be looking at one of those year two guys. The whole second year slump thing doesn't bother me. I would take the flyer on it, but I wouldn't also hold on to him if it doesn't seem like it's going to work out either. So I think it's a low risk, worth the draft capital that you're going to spend there for sure.
Joel?
Yeah, I think you guys hit it. He's absolutely got the infrastructure to be able to be, that elite quarterback. He's got a great offensive line, a great play caller, great wide receivers. So everything's there. It's just you've got really the same questions that he had coming out of Michigan, plus the injury now is that, he was a 2-year starter at Michigan, but it was a very run-heavy offense. So does he have that mental bank of experience that he can kind of rely on when things get tough? He didn't play last year. That doesn't help. Now he's coming back. He's got to fight the meniscus injury too. So there's definitely some risk, but yeah, there's certainly some upside just because of the context of the team he's on.
Yeah, I'm in agreement. I think that he will outperform his current ADP. I feel like the offense is just too good. You have too many weapons that can make plays in spite of bad quarterback play. And that always changes the game. There's you look at Sam Darnold literally failed for how many years with how many different teams, and then he goes to the Vikings, and all of a sudden Sam Darnold's worth the Seahawks letting Geno go and paying him money. Like that offense can make people look good. And I think they're ready for that new face. I think that's the reason they weren't really interested in bringing in Rodgers. And I think that he can thrive. Definitely if I'm getting him, especially at the end of my redrafts, 18, 17, 16 round, it's fine. Honestly, he probably will still be sitting there on waivers in most leagues after you finish your redraft. So definitely a value. And I think I think that you can jump ahead of the curve, right? And instead of being the guy that picks him up on waivers after he has 2 good weeks, he could be sitting there instead of some other player that you could have been a maybe, and you're going to get more production out of him. I'm definitely a quarterback grab type person. I never go quarterback early unless somebody falls way, way down beyond where they should have. Like last year in the Kings Classic, I got Lamar Jackson in the 9th round or something like that, and I was like,
crazy.
To me too. It's like the Kings. I'm playing with Jeff Manns and Michael Fabiano and all these people, and I'm okay, I guess they don't like Lamar. Well,
it's am I stupid?
Literally let him go. I let him go, and then he came back around. I was like, at this point, like, I feel like I'm crazy if I don't, right? Because I typically would be like around 15, 16 guy. Like, I'm stacking my running backs. I'm getting my couple of stud receivers, like, and definitely, I mean, I won that league, which was really awesome, but I think it was due to everybody else sleeping on that. But anyways, I think JJ's the value there. Really love that. Keeping kind of rolling here. Speaking of Minnesota, Jordan Mason signs a deal. Obviously people were curious what the Niners would do. He goes to the Vikings. Aaron Jones impact. Joel, I see you've got the Vikings. I mean, it's a little bit down in the screen, but it's there. So I feel like you might be a bit tuned in. Where are you at with the Aaron Jones, Jordan Mason?
Yeah, my wife is the Vikings fan, so we are the house divided. It's a civil war twice a year.
I feel that, man. My wife's a Browns fan. I get it.
Oh, sorry for her, man.
Yeah, I think the Jordan Mason signing is just the Vikings telling us that they're done messing around with Ty Chandler and Cam Akers and those guys, and they just want some stability behind Aaron Jones. He didn't really miss any time, but he missed kind of time in the games, a few games this year. So, he didn't have that like 6-game injury that he had seemingly every year when he was with the Packers. He was out there every game, but, he didn't practice that much. And there were a few games where he kind of left during the game and came back, or, left and didn't come back. So he's not a model of stability. We've seen multiple coaching staff say that, as talented as this guy is, he can't carry a full-time workload. This is just the Vikings saying that we understand that we need a better backup plan to Aaron Jones, and I think it's probably a good one.
So let me ask you this: in Dynasty, Aaron Jones is obviously he's in later years, I feel like, for his career. Is Jordan Mason somebody that you think you could buy, obviously much cheaper as he's an RB2, that could carry RB1 value within the next couple years? Like, could he actually end up rocking that backfield, or am I selling him?
I don't think he's going to carry RB1 value, but if you're someone like me who doesn't like to invest in running backs very much, I think he's a guy you can get cheap now and just carry on your roster and know that you're going to get a few starts out of him during the year for the next couple of years. Fair enough.
So the next one is kind of a doozy, and I'm not going to go to Joe on this one yet. Hutch, I'm going to start off with you because it's interdivision for Joe over there. But the Bengals decide to pay unprecedented money to their wide receiver group. I mean, two guys, $70 million per year. And we're not even counting Joe Burrow's contract. You put the three of those contracts together, and it is like close to half their cap. They had to let Trey Hendrickson go. Like, they're having to give up players. Obviously, we saw the defense not play well last year. Offensive line needs a little bit of love. Was it the right decision?
What's really interesting? You said the contracts are absolutely crazy. I was doing some reading more into T. Higgins' contract. I don't know if you guys have seen this. It is almost no guarantees. There is almost nothing guaranteed to him.
I'm so mad at him.
It's kind of ludicrous. Like, he is basically playing for all of his money, and it's very reliant on him playing all the games. It's very reliant on him hitting some certain statistics. Like, Higgins, I think this deal to Higgins is like a bit of a chip on his shoulder, to be honest. It is $28.75 million per year, but when you look at the details, it's like this dude's fully playing for his money right now, and the Bengals could basically get out of it almost any year they want. It's kind of insane. So looking at Higgins, I think this is a huge motivator for him. I think he's going to play for his money, and we've seen how good Higgins can be with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase in this offense. This could be 2 top 12 receivers in fantasy. We've seen that before. We saw it last year specifically. And I've talked about Joe Burrow before this whole offseason thing went, where they lost all their defense and they made this contract extension with Higgins and Chase. I was talking about Burrow as a potential regression candidate. Burrow threw a career high in touchdown percentage, a career high in completion percentage, and a career high in yards, all three by pretty significant margins. Like, he was very bound to regress to the mean. But honestly, with how their defense looks, losing Sam Hubbard, probably losing Trey Hendrickson to the trade, and not really adding much after that, and they have the draft, but they still have very, very, very weak defense right now. They might be the 33rd ranked defense in the NFL next year. Looking towards what you have with Joe Burrow, Jamar Chase, T. Higgins now locked in for at least this year, probably future years as well. Like, he's going to have to throw the football 40 plus times a game, and Higgins and Chase are going to have to be incredibly involved, because after Higgins and Chase, it's very limited. You do have Mike Gesicki, but other than that, it's very limited in terms of the receiving core. So Higgins and Chase both will be top 15 wide receivers ranked for me next year, especially considering what I mentioned earlier with Higgins' money, basically none of it being guaranteed.
Imagine not wanting to play for the Patriots so bad that you're basically willing to risk not getting paid to play with Joe Burrow and Jamar Chase. Because that's essentially what T. Higgins did. I would have been, all right, it's been real. I'm going to Boston. Let me get that money. But, I mean, if you look last year, he could have sat out. He played on the tag. They looked like they were going to tag him again. He was like, all right, like, we'll figure it out. I was astonished when I saw the details of that trade. Or
it was
the
unbelievable.
trade, the contract. It shocked me. I still can't believe it. And it's very frustrating because if he does get hurt, then they're just going to cut him and it's not really going to impact them at all.
100%. Yeah, it's like when I saw the deal, I was like, man, happy for T. Higgins. This is so amazing. He's getting his money finally. And then I read a couple articles. I was like, oh my gosh, he's literally making no money unless he plays really good. Like, it's unbelievable. I wonder why I wonder what happened to the conversations between him and his agent about this. I wonder if, like, how informed Higgins was about how reliant the contract is on him playing well.
I mean, what took so long to get this done, right? This has been going on for like 3 years.
Yeah.
And he settles for this contract. I mean, why couldn't they have gotten this done 2 years ago and just avoided the whole franchise tag thing altogether?
Yeah.
You asked, is this the right thing to do? Yeah. If Joe Burrow wants his two receivers, this is the right thing to do. You make your quarterback happy when your quarterback is Joe Burrow. So, yeah, it's the right thing to do. Is it the best way to build a team? The best way to build a team would probably have been to trade T. Higgins a year ago and invest some in the defense. But, yeah, you got to make your quarterback happy. They were up against the wall here. They had to do something.
Yeah, it's so funny to think about this, too. They're basically giving T. Higgins no money, but then they're also letting Trey Hendrickson walk. And it's like, what is happening in Cincinnati, man? It is unbelievable.
Yeah.
Like, it's already been crazy, and after this weird contract, it's like, what are you guys doing? This is weird, man.
Yeah, I wonder if, like, they're sitting in the room and, like, you know, Jamar Chase was like, oh, you know, T. Higgins is 1A. Like, he's 1A. And I wonder if he was like 1A because Jamar got all of his guaranteed money and T. Higgins was like, they're like, well, T, we gave Jamar all the guaranteed money, so we have to keep you kind of malleable, you know, just in case something happens. But we still want to pay you, but it's got to be kind of, you know, like floating, like in you know, and Jamar's like, yeah, he's my 1A. He's 1A. You know, like if I'm T, I definitely don't feel like 1A. But, you know, the downside is T. Higgins is I believe T. Higgins is a wide receiver one. Like, I believe he can go to almost any other team and he can really produce. I mean, of course, with Joe Burrow, that's a cannon. Like, they're going to throw, they're going to have to throw. And it's just like, I still hate for him because of what could have happened for him. But I get it. If you play with your quarterback, you play with your best, you know, good friend wide receiver, you're both, you know, you're looked as the top tandem really in the league. That's a big deal. And so if he wanted to take it, sure, it's fine. I worry about the defense. You know, I really worry about the defense, which if you're playing fantasy, the fact that we are worrying about the defense and an offense that is going to have to be prolific to even be in the conversation, you know, then it's going to be a good year for T. It's going to be a good year for Chase. And I'm with you, Hutchinson. Like, I think both inside the top 20 for sure, if not the top 15 this year. I love it.
Underlying beneficiary of this too is going to be Chase Brown. I thought he was somebody that they could be potentially drafting over. I didn't like, for me, it's like guys that are 5th round or below draft capital. I'm always concerned after they have a good year and try to get rid of them. But with all of the holes they have on defense, I don't know if they make an offensive selection in this draft. So Chase Brown might survive this deep running back class and carve out another role for 2025. They might pick someone up late because they can't have him averaging 86% on the field for all snaps. But they're not going to go and say, all right, we're going to go get this guy that's going to challenge you for that lead role.
Yeah, no, I posted the exact same thing on Twitter. Like that was one of my biggest takeaways as well, Joe. When you're looking at it, like they don't have the luxury to take a running back right now. They just don't have it. It's not there. And they also brought back some IJP, right? I know that's not crazy significant, but that's a solid backup player who can provide some significant relief to Chase Brown when you need him to. So I agree, Joe. They'll probably take like a late round guy, but they just don't have the luxury to take anyone's significance. So I completely agree that while I was out on Chase Brown earlier this offseason, he's going around RB15 in best ball right now. If you could take that, I'm going to take that all day. This is going to be a hyper productive offense. And while I don't believe Chase Brown is an above average running back, I think he's fine. You put this guy with a lot of receiving opportunity in a elite offense that has to score a lot of points, you're going to get a top 10 fantasy back. It's simple as that.
It's a good take. Chase Brown is one of those. He's kind of a polarizing player in people's rankings. I've seen him ranked. He finished obviously last year at RB10 in most PPR formats. He had over 1,300 yards and 11 touchdowns on the year, all purpose. So, I mean, you definitely got production, but I've seen people have Chase Brown all the way as high as RB5.
Oh, wow.
Ooh.
Joel, can you see it? Can you see it?
Don't hate it.
I could see it, sure. I mean, Joe Mixon was never efficient in any way whatsoever, and he was always putting up, fringe top 5 running back seasons in that offense. So, yeah, I could see it. And you guys talk about, what they need to draft for defense, and they do, but they still need help on the offensive line too. So, yeah, I'm with you guys. I don't think that they can really afford to spend significant draft capital on a running back. So, yeah, if you're a bell cow running back in that offense, I see no reason why you can't be a top 5 back.
Yeah. You know what the Bengals need? The Bengals need one of those good old classic Eagles drafts where they get all kinds of defensive capital late in the draft somehow that overperform their draft spots. That's what they need. If they can do that,
you get the best player at the draft at pick 9 because nobody wants to take him for some reason.
Because he may have character issues. He seems to be fine to me.
There was definitely some truth to what happened there. That wasn't like a questionable. Did he have a character issue? Like the whole.
But what about Nolan Smith? Look how far Nolan Smith fell.
No, Howard's annoying as hell. He's like, as soon as I see like a player that's drafted that I haven't heard of by the Eagles, I'm like, you're probably going to be an all-pro.
And they probably got one of the, if not the best, one of the best rookie defensive backs in the league.
They got 2 of them.
They need that. They need a good Eagles draft.
Go Birds, man. Go Birds.
I know, Hutch, you got the hat on. You're yeah, my guy, talking my music right now. Dude, they kill it every year. So we're running close on time. We've got about maybe 10 more minutes here, and we want to hit some of the best fits for the players that are left. And we've already talked about Russ. We've already talked about A-Rod. Winston already landed his spots. Kirk Cousins, I believe, is going to be a backup somewhere this year. Unless, I don't think the Titans really want a Tannehill-style offense. I think they're ready to move on from that. So I don't think he lands that starting role there. So we're going to kind of bypass the quarterbacks. And we've got, I would say, 5 players, 2 running backs, 3 wide receivers that everybody's pretty curious about. So we're going to kind of have to hit lightning round here, but I'll name a player. You tell me in one sentence, if you can, the best landing spot for said player. On your mark, here we go. Nick Chubb.
For the sake of my marriage, Cleveland Browns. My wife's favorite player, and if he ends up anywhere else, it's just going to be a bad time in the franchise.
It almost feels like there's no other place that just fits. Like he needs to finish a Brown.
To quote my wife, he's Batman. He can't leave the city. That's verbatim what she said.
What about Joel?
Yeah, I think he's basically washed. I think that injury just ended his career. So yeah, he may as well just kind of ceremoniously just stay in Cleveland and probably retire there.
Hutch.
Yeah, I'm with Joel. I hate to say he looked awful when he came back last year. Like he's not that guy anymore. It really sucks. Loved Nick Chubb throughout his career, but he needs to stay in Cleveland or retire there. But he's not relevant at all anymore.
You guys are good wingmen. I appreciate y'all. Thank you.
Oh, it hurts. It hurts. I love Nick Chubb. Nick Chubb's one of those players like you just root for. It's like, like he's a good player. Good dude.
Watch, he's gonna end up being like a commentator and just like have so much to say like once he retires after like not talking his entire career.
Yeah,
that dude was quiet.
On the next side of that, we got J.K. Dobbins, who, missing 5 games, still finished RB 24 on the season in PPR. Proved that he could do it, and so J.K. Dobbins actually, weird stat, in his career has not averaged under 5 yards a carry with Baltimore, right? He averaged 6.5 yards as a rookie, 5.5 yards after he came back from his first injury, injured again, comes back. Everybody last year, like if you got J.K. Dobbins, you got him late, real late, if you even had to draft him. And he still, after injury number, whatever it is, averages over 4.5 yards per carry in a totally different offense, right? It's you wonder, like, is he really that good? Like, is he that good on a bum knee, still averaging over 4 yards a carry this far in his career after multiple injuries? My question, Hutch, and you start us off, does he still have it in him? Like, can he go somewhere and be effective? And if so, where do you think that is?
I'm going to be honest. Like, you see the over 4.5 yards per carry. I think these numbers are misleading because when you look at the first 5 weeks of the season or the first 4 before the week 5 bye for the Chargers, J.K. Dobbins had some really fluky, explosive runs where he was exploding. We saw a few runs that were just like 60-plus, 40-yard touchdowns, insanity. After that bye week, when he came back from that, he was averaging just over 3 yards a carry. His breakaway run percentage was at about 14%, which when you look among NFL backs is barely a starting running back number. Like, that's incredibly low. Najee Harris in Pittsburgh was at a higher rate in terms of breakaway runs than J.K. Dobbins. And to me, he looked okay. He looked fine. I honestly think that the Chargers offensive line, the Chargers system carried him to look like an average starter. Like, I just don't think J.K. Dobbins got it anymore. He had those fresh legs in the first 2 weeks, and then after that, it just kind of fell off. And I think it's very clear with how he's not being signed at all that the NFL feels the same way. Rico Dowdle's getting a contract before him, and Javonte Williams is getting a contract before him. Miles Sanders is getting a contract for him, and they're not asking for much money. This is like $3 million they're handing out on 1-year deals, and this is a strong running back class too. I feel like there's a strong reason why Dobbins hasn't been signed. I just think he's not that good.
Oh God, you're breaking my heart.
I know. I love J.K. Dobbins coming out. I thought he was phenomenal, but I don't think
he is phenomenal. When he's on the field, he's phenomenal. Like, he's been like even the crazy thing is, like, I agree. He did have some games, like he started the season first 13.5, 7 yards per carry. Then he had he had a rough run there where he was kind of banged up. And then he came back and he goes against Tennessee 6 yards, against Baltimore 5 yards per carry, against Atlanta 6.6 yards per carry. And it almost like, it just like, it kills me, because I think he's one of those players, like, if J.K. Dobbins doesn't go down, like if he doesn't deal with all those knee injuries, what are we looking at? With what he's capable. I mean, you saw him when he came back from injury last time. I mean, he's running down the field on a breakaway run, a 40-yarder, and he looks like he's half limping because his legs don't move like they should, and he's still running. Like, he's still doing it. And it's just, it's one of those things that it kills me. I think he's better. It's like, it's one of those where bad luck, like just bad luck. But I agree. I don't know that he gets a spot to be a premier guy again. Joel, what are your thoughts?
Am I throwing a wet blanket on Jaylen Warren if I say Pittsburgh makes some sense?
I think it makes sense. I don't know if they'll do it, but I think it makes sense.
I think it makes sense to put him in an Arthur Smith offense and just be the early down hammer to Jaylen Warren. I think that's a good idea.
Yeah, I think another avenue that you could go is he could be the 1B to Chase Brown. I think the Bengals make a lot of sense too. So it's like, all right, you just have a guy that you need to go out there, bang around a little bit, give him a breather. I do think he is more on the Rico side of where the contract's going to go than say like the Najee Aaron Jones for sure.
Oh yeah, no, he's not getting more than like $3 million a year.
Yeah,
no chance. Not at this point.
I haven't thought about the Steelers. I don't hate it. I mean, Najee only averaged over 4 yards a carry one season in his career this far. I mean, if he has anything left in the tank, he could probably be effective. They definitely have a better, or I have to say not really better now that Becton's there, but they have a competitive O-line. It's not like running behind garbage, you know. And Joe, you can probably speak to it more than I can, but keep moving. You know, we talked about the Cowboys earlier. I've heard so much take about, you know, Diggs playing with his brother in Dallas. Where does Diggs go, Joe? Where does Diggs go?
I think he's going to chase the money, chase the opportunity to play Buffalo twice a year. I think he goes to New England.
Yeah.
I don't think he's going to go and play with his brother. I don't think he'll enjoy playing second fiddle to CeeDee Lamb. He still thinks he's the guy, even though he hasn't been the guy in 2 years, maybe more. But I think he goes to New England, gets the bag, falls off irrelevance. So he gets signed. Everybody's like, oh, he's back. You immediately trade him in Dynasty, and then you never look back.
I completely agree with this, honestly. I think he still could ball, though. I mean, looking at what he did last year in Houston, he absolutely was very productive when he was given the opportunity. It's just off the ACL tear at his age. There's definitely some concern of does he come back as the same guy? But I agree with you, Joe, that New England is the place, and if the hype goes high, you sell. Because even if they add Diggs, there's likely going to be a Travis Hunter or a Tech McMillan coming to this team very soon.
I hope to sell. I hope he goes somewhere where there's instant notoriety. He is wide receiver one, and I can sell him for whatever I can get him for, get for him personally. So we got a question dropped in the chat, and I want to make sure we'll kind of end on this. I know we got a couple more wide receivers. I think that they're towards the end for those players, a lot like a Nick Chubb, like Tyler Lockett, Amari Cooper. I do have more faith in Lockett over Cooper. Cooper's obviously been a dud for a little bit more time now. But you know, we'll see. I think they'll probably go just provide depth somewhere. But
I'm keeping on Keenan Allen too.
Yeah.
Keenan Allen was productive last year in the Chicago offense, even in a broken scheme. I would keep an eye on Allen.
Yeah, I would agree on that. Allen can still be effective for sure. So quick question, Blue in the chat. Thanks for tuning in. Hit that like, subscribe. We appreciate you. It's a 10-man PPR, and I'm trading Metcalf. Joel, this is coming to you, so be ready for it. I'm trading Metcalf. I'm trying to figure out which trade to do. Options are Godwin and a 27 first. Wow, that's a way. Sorry. Godwin
These are
and a 27 first. It's a ways out. Or Waddle and a 27 first. Or Debo, 27 first, and Stafford.
And then there was a secondary comment that Stafford would be his QB3.
So Stafford's really at that point probably a non-factor for the most part because he didn't say whether or not it was super flex.
I'm assuming that it is based on the way that he
having three quarterbacks on your roster.
Yeah.
But so what do you think, Joel?
Wow. Honestly, I would fall all over myself to take any one of these deals for Metcalf. I mean,
I'm with you, man.
Who's essentially going to be probably his equal. You know, you could blink and see that, or squint and see that, and you're getting a first. Yeah, I'm taking any of these deals from Metcalf straight up for sure, easily.
Yeah.
The Waddle one seems to make the most sense for me. I know that he's been banged up, but you have Tyreek kind of hanging around, fighting father time. He becomes the wide receiver one. We've seen him have a wide receiver one season. We don't know what's going to happen with Godwin, and then having the 2027 first is pretty great. Debo, I wouldn't trade Metcalf. Like the Debo swap doesn't really make a lot of sense for me.
This is super flex. It is super flex.
Yeah, that means nothing to me. So I would say Waddle the 2027 first. The other thing I would say is you're my boy Blue.
My boy Blue.
I'm honestly, I'm surprised. I'd be tempted by Godwin here. I would look.
Yeah,
I know we're splitting a lot here, but I would look at Godwin because, I mean, last year before his injury, obviously we have to see his injury. He was a wide receiver 1. He was a dominant wide receiver 1, I will say. He was excellent. Baker Mayfield in this offense just run very smoothly. And the thing is, you might say, I just mentioned the injury, and you might be like, oh, what the heck, the injury is not going to be good. It's a broken ankle. He's going to come back. He's not going to be the same. The thing that gives me confidence is the Bucs just gave him a massive contract. The Bucs just gave him millions upon millions of dollars guaranteed. It was $66 million on 3 years, and it was 44 of it guaranteed. If you're to give a wide receiver at his age that kind of money, you better be fully confident in his injury status. Like, you better be 100% confident that he is trending in the right direction. The Bucs have been a smart organization the last handful of years. I predict that, given that they just gave him that contract, that Chris Godwin's going to come back. He's going to be fully ready to go. And the thing is, he's not one of these like ridiculous athletes. He's not a Tyreek Hill, like speedster, crazy athlete kind of player. He's just a good technical route runner. He knows exactly where he needs to be to get the football. And he just has great IQ to run behind blockers and get into the open field. Those kind of players can play a little bit older. Like, you see a guy like Keenan Allen playing into his 30s. You see a guy like Larry Fitzgerald playing into his 30s. These technical route runners, Devontae Adams, for example, as well. These technical route runners that don't rely on crazy hyper athleticism, but rely more on their IQ and their footwork. They tend to play longer. They tend to play a little bit in their 30s. I think Chris Godwin could be one of those players. So I like Chris Godwin in this deal. And I understand the Waddle hype. I understand why we want Waddle. Obviously, Tyreek Hill aging out. It's just been a rough few years, man. Godwin's been incredibly productive.
So you're not concerned about the age 29 versus the 26 that you would have on Waddle, basically?
No, yeah, you definitely get a few more years with Waddle. I'm just more confident that we're going to see wide receiver 1 production from Godwin because he's done it more, and he's done it more.
But I think what I was trying to say is that, so typically like 30 years old is where you start to see like that cliff fall off. I think what you were saying is the style is, it's a more graceful decline for Godwin versus somebody like a DK Metcalf that relies on speed, crazy hype, athletic traits.
Or like a Jalen Waddle too. He's at like 26, 27. I think he's only got a couple more years left.
Yeah.
I think you give him 3, maybe 4 years. And then at that point, we got to be like, all right, what's going on? Godwin, I think you can get 2 or 3 years out of him.
So I'm gonna throw a complete loop in this thing, and this, it's so hard when you can't see the roster. Like, at this point, I want to see my full roster bill. I want to see if I'm young. I want to see if I'm aged, because for me in this deal, and I'm painting moves here. So I actually don't hate the Debo, the 27 first, and Stafford, especially in Superflex when he has Love and Purdy. This is why. Stafford's got a crew to throw to now. He now has his Calvin Johnson revamp, right, in Devontae Adams. They're gonna lean on him to throw the football. And so if you're Superflex, you're trying to have somebody there. I'm not getting him so that he can be a staple of my team. I want to sell. You're already trading for a 27 first. You're trading for a first that's years out. You're not even going to be able to use this anytime soon. So to me, it feels like we're trading DK. It feels like we're entering rebuild mode. And so I'm thinking Stafford. I think if he lights it up, even just a few games in a row, all of a sudden I've got something that I can deal for something substantial, right? Especially if somebody loses a quarterback to injury, or if somebody's down and they're trying to make a championship run, right? And then Debo, same thing. Debo's the same age as Godwin. He's going to Washington, which I think Jaden Daniels blows Brock Purdy out of the water as a passing. I mean, he made Noah Brown relevant for as long as he was healthy, So Debo in that offense also could provide relevance. All you need is like 2 good games, two to 3 good games out of 4 to 5. And then Debo is bringing money for a win now team. So like, I'm sitting here and I'm trying to like paint this picture where and it's a risk. It's a risk because they could also dud out, right? Like, they could also dud out. But if I'm looking at taking Waddle, who has been okay, or if I look at taking Godwin, who's coming off a bad injury, and there's been so much hype on Godwin for a while, right? Like, he's still the same age. He's still aging out just like Debo is. Like, and I know they gave him the money, and I agree with you, Hutch. They're going to have to depend on him with giving him that money. But like at this point, it feels like a team where I'm trying to rebuild. And he just said, he just popped in. He said Nico, London, Ladd, Rice are my other starters. It screams rebuild. It screams, let me take this.
Wait, what?
No, that's a contending roster. That's
but it is. But who's okay? So let's say if you're Nico, London, Ladd, Rice, out of anybody that you just named, who's going to actually be effective over these guys? You're probably going to play Nico every. You're going to play Ladd every week. You're going to play. We're not even talking about somebody that's going to be hitting the roster with a Debo or a Waddle or a Godwin. They're probably not going to touch the starting lineup for the most, or at least I would say they're expendable. So I can.
Yeah, we'd have to understand how many roster spots you have. The one thing I would warn about Stafford, and I agree with you, Matt. I like Stafford a lot this year. But in a 10-team league, your quarterbacks can carry the same demand as they do in a 12-team league. So I'd kind of warn off of expecting to be able to trade Stafford, because you may be in a situation where all the contenders, later in the season, they all have quarterbacks and they don't need something like that. So that's I like you say, I like Stafford quite a bit this year. I think he's going to be really good. I'm just saying, don't necessarily go into this saying I can trade Stafford later in the year, because in a 10-team league, that may not be the case.
Yeah, Joel, I have a situation in one of my dynasty leagues as a 10-team league, and I'm in with a bunch of, it's a lot of the fantasy footballers, writers and staff, like a lot of those guys. I'm in the league with them. It's a great league, super fun, but it's 10-team dynasty super flex. And I have a few quarterback options, and I've been looking to trade one of my quarterbacks, and I keep looking at every roster. I can't trade to anybody. No one needs a quarterback. Everyone has at least two guys that are like, okay, they're going to be reasonable starters for them. They have a quarterback 1 and a quarterback 2 that's like, they're good. Once you get to 12 and 14, 16, that's when you really start to see someone struggling quarterback. Someone picked an Anthony Richardson. Someone picked a Trey Lance. Someone had a bad choice, and it really cost them. Yeah. But you know what I mean? Where it's like someone's struggling, and you can get them a quarterback, but in a 10-team, I'm with Joel here, that it might be harder to trade Stafford than you think, because everyone knows he's very old. Everyone knows his time is expiring.
But if you're also willing to give up a first, a receiver, and Stafford for DK.
Yeah, that said, I still like that deal. I still like all three of them.
It might be easier in that league to make a trade.
Yeah, sure, and whether it be Debo,
you may be able to trade him back to that person.
You might be able to get somebody like let's say that Rodgers goes there and he does exactly the same thing he did at the Jets, and he's just not great. And Pickens is there, and you're dealing Stafford for Pickens. I would do it. If you're or you've got there's all kinds of players that may be there that have future. Even if you could take it and deal it for somebody, and I don't know if I would go Jonathan Brooks. The injury is just, 2 times in a row is tough. So
you
we don't
love
really
them hurt boys. J.K. Dobbins, Jonathan Brooks.
No. I've never been on the Brooks train. I was not a Brooks guy personally. But what I'm saying is there's going to be somebody mid with potential that you could grab with one of those players that's going to build a strong roster moving forward, even if it's a pick. Even if you take those guys and you turn them into future seconds or something like that, it's still a value, especially in 10-team league, those second round picks. And a player in Dynasty, I often find they think second and they're like, oh, it's nothing. Right. But if it ends up being 2-5 or 2-7, it's still pick 15 or 17. This year with the running back class coming in, I'd love to have another pick in the second round. I'm just better my chances at getting somebody,
teamer, that second round holds a little bit more weight than you probably see in a lot of ranking sites that you're looking at. So just be mindful of that when you're putting this stuff into calculators or wherever you're looking at this information.
Right. And so you guys know I run a dealership, so there's a little bit of car salesman in me, and if I'm coming in right and I've got Stafford and even into the beginning of the season, I've got Stafford there and I'm like, oh man, he's got Devontae, he's got Puka, like Kyron catching the ball, like everything's there. This is gonna be his season. I'm selling the mess out of him, right? And then somebody says, "Hey, I'll give you the 2-2 or 2, whatever." And you don't really know what that's gonna end up being. But let's say they're their contender and they think their first round pick is gonna be at the back of the first round, right? And they're trying to get assurance that they're gonna have a stud quarterback on their roster. You might get it. And so it's like the possibility of that, because like I think Godwin, like even if you look at a Godwin and you're going to trade Godwin, you're still looking at the same value in a trade, in my mind, that you would be for like a Debo or a Stafford in that type of league. So I'm like getting essentially like two trade pieces that could net second round picks, which is what Godwin's going to give you. Nobody's going to give you the first for Godwin. You know what I mean? And that's where I'm thinking, but I agree. Definitely, go with your guys. It's always tough, right? Like everybody's got different takes, and that's the great thing about fantasy. That's what makes Dynasty so fun. It's so fun to try to build different teams and build your team. Like I am that guy that I have 5 Dynasty leagues, and the teams are almost identical because I have traded and I have worked for the guys that I like, that I want to see win. And it is almost nerve-wracking because I find myself sometimes like taking a hit just to get a guy that I have on all my other teams. It also helps me on Sunday that I'm not like that. I'm essentially cheering for the same guy in 5 leagues, and I'm not like fighting against myself. But if you don't play Dynasty, you should. If you're watching the show and you only play redraft, you should play Dynasty. It adds a whole nother level, and stuff like this, like trading for a 2027 pick, like you're trying to make moves for a future. You're thinking, 2 years, 3 years down the road, which is awesome. And it's just another dynamic of it. But we have hit our time. We are actually a bit past the time, and I appreciate, Joel, Hutch. Thanks for being troopers and hanging in there with us on that. Again, if you can, just real quick, let the viewers know who you are, where they can find your work. Everybody in this room, guys, does incredible work in the industry, and I've read a lot of the stuff that they've put out. It's great stuff. So make sure you hit the follow button. Go follow them on Twitter. Go download their podcasts. You can never get enough good information, especially when it's coming from solid sources like these guys. Blue, appreciate you dropping in the thanks, guys. So Hutch, let them know where they can get your stuff.
Hey, y'all, you can follow me on Twitter. I'm at HutchinsonB_FF. You can find everything I do from there. Hutch Coming in Clutch, my fantasy football podcast, dropping once weekly. And then I do a lot of work with football guys, especially throughout the offseason, throughout free agency. I've had a lot of articles, a lot of videos. So if you go on the Football Guys site and go to the articles section, they're all free. You can find all the articles done by me. You can look at all the reactions, all the things I talked about in free agency. So, yeah, go check that all out.
Joel?
Yeah, I want to thank you guys for having me on. Appreciate it. Good to see all you guys. You can find me at the Joel Worth on the Twitter and on the Blue Sky. On Club Fantasy, I put out a Dynasty article, Dynasty buys and sells, a few weeks ago before the Combine, but I think it's still probably pretty relevant. And on IDP Plus, working on my best ball rankings, and the quarterback rankings will be coming up next week.
Yeah, Joel, if you will, drop that link in the chat on YouTube. Maybe we'll get some clicks over there.
Yeah,
Joe?
Yeah, and then I've been doing primarily everything through the Fantasy Football Advice Network. So come check us out, see what's happening, and yeah, just check everybody out here. There's a lot of good content everywhere. So it's been fun working with these guys tonight. Always a blast chopping up with you, Tyler, every week. So yeah, we're just gonna keep doing this thing.
Joe, you're my guy, man. It's like every time you're on the show, like it's like I'm here for the vibes, and I appreciate it. Appreciate you being here with me each week, and thank you all for tuning in. Thank you for listening to this when the podcast hits. Thank you for supporting the Fantasy Sports Advice Network and From the Forum. We are here for you. Anytime you have questions, drop them in. And Hutch, Joel, I can't thank you enough for tuning in. Family, we will see you next week, 9:00 Central Time on From the Forum. Have a good night. See ya.
We are here. FantasySportsAdvice.com, offering the best fantasy sports social media platform. Why join endless Discord communities or the trolls of Reddit? Fantasy Sports Advice is a community designed to help you win with 24/7 support. Go to fantasysportsadvice.com and become a pro member for unlimited access. Again, go to fantasysportsadvice.com today.